Hello, everybody. A very good evening to you. If you're watching this in Israel, I hope you are tucked under a duvet or got the heating turned up, closed the windows, and that unlike our house, yours doesn't leak, because I'm dreading tomorrow morning waking up and having to put an umbrella up inside the house as I sort of splosh around in my wellies trying to find a bucket to heave everything out. But we are about to go off to sunnier climes than ours, even though it's a bit dark now. And we are going to welcome one of our group members, an honorary Mancunian group member. We'll find out a bit more about that in a minute. And she is Karen Tzafrir. Have I said, Karen, are you coming in? Yeah, you're in. Karen, have I said your name right? Tzafrir.
Very convincing Israeli accent.
Karen Tzafrir. Welcome to the program. Okay, so Karen, first of all, is currently the founder of a new organization, Emirates Experts, is also runs an organization or a company called Live Productions, and we're also in the next few minutes going to be talking about getting fit between people and bringing people closer together, whether they're in Israel or in the Gulf. So first of all, Karen, who are you?
Oh, I didn't prepare that question. Who am I?
Let me give you a minute to think about it and just say, if anybody wants to comment, ask questions, you can do that in the Facebook feed and we will see the questions here and I can pose them for you to Karen. Right, you've had your thinking time. Who are you?
Karen Tzafrir, born Karen Horowitz, originally from London, now from Ein Sarid, a small moshav not far from Tel Mond. Event planner, wedding planner before Corona, now an Emirates expert, which is what I'm doing here, planning to bring Israeli groups and corporate incentives to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which is currently locked down, so at the moment just Dubai. And my other hat is I'm a spinning instructor, and I'm doing something really amazing this weekend. I'm teaching a spinning class, a live spinning class to 15 locals and simultaneously zooming it to, well, all over the world because it's on Zoom. But the people who've told me they're accessing it are about 70 spinners from Israel, 2 from Myanmar, 12 from a spinning club in London. And I just met an Australian in the lift on the way up and he's joining me too. So he's actually in Dubai, but he's going to join on Zoom and he's an Aussie. So interesting.
Absolutely fascinating. So let's get to the why you've made this this jump, as it were, or this spin from events to bringing folks over to the UAE. So take us back to, say, pre-Brexit. What were you doing? How was your business working?
Pre-Brexit, life was good. Pre-Brexit, I was doing about 15 weddings a year, most of them from the UK, almost all of them from the UK, and a handful of bar mitzvahs that were from the States and the UK. And in the winter, I would do some Israeli corporate work. And that's what I was doing until Brexit. And then the summer that Brexit was a threat, the pound started falling rapidly, and I had clients who had budgeted in sterling for weddings, and by the end of the summer, by late August, they needed to add £10,000, £20,000 to meet the Israeli shekel price for an event. And Brexit badly affected my business. And then it got even jollier. We got Corona, which just blew everything out of the window. So that's where I was until February. Had some work, but not a lot, less than previous years for sure.
Talk to us about some of the spanking events that you've put on in Israel. Give us an idea, because you're not talking about the usual Simcha Hall, 500 people getting basic catered food.
So I grew up in a posh part of London called Hampstead Garden Snobberb, and blessed with people who knew me as a child. So many of my clients came from London, but from Hampstead Garden Suburb, Highgate, people who came and wanted to support Israel, were Zionistic and were happy to spend a lot of money in Israel. So I did weddings I did weddings where people spent 300,000 shekels on flowers. I don't need to say how much they spent on everything else.
So what type
I did a bar mitzvah.
What type of locations are people picking? Again, they're not going to choose the types of places that we local Israelis would think of having an event.
So I think one of the blessings of not really having a budget is you don't need to go to a venue. So I really specialized in doing events in places, you know, in the desert or in a forest or in a field that would be a 3-day build or something completely off the wall. I would build a venue from nothing. I would bring in electricity and staging and flooring and build a stage for the chuppah and a stage for the band and build a kitchen with a kitchen tent and bring water and mobile toilets. And the desert, that's a huge project. That's a 3-day build. And very quickly dismantled, but 3-day build to get it all in place. And actually it was, if somebody came to me from the UK and said, I want to get married in the Hilton, I would kind of go, maybe you should stay in London. I wouldn't do it at the Hilton. There was no challenge there for me. And I always like to be challenged. So
my father-in-law was a conservative rabbi in the United States. He's now retired. But when he moved to Long Island, New York, some of the bar mitzvahs in particular, but also weddings, but mainly bar mitzvahs that he was dealing with, and he wasn't the caterer, but were just over the top, but they were all within a contained space. So they would fly in from Los Angeles, famous basketball players and actors and so on, and build the most ridiculous cakes that are, you know, just beyond our imagination. Do the Brits who are having events in Israel demand the same type of things?
No. English people are, I think, far more reluctant to throw their money in your face. They do spend a lot of money on events, but they don't do show-off events like the Americans and like the French. I hope there's no Americans and French watching who are offended. I don't really mean to offend anybody. The English, tread carefully, girl. I think the English are very modest with showing their money. They'll spend a lot of money. They'll spend 700 shekels, 800 shekels per person on food, which you'll taste it and it'll be absolutely amazing. And you'll go home and you'll say, I've never had such amazing kosher food, but you won't know how much money's been spent. And when they've spent 300,000 shekels on flowers, it's not because it's over the top, huge, immense, it's just all orchids, which are very expensive flowers. So you know, it wouldn't necessarily look over the top.
Yeah, British understatement. So
exactly.
You brought up food now, and it's a very interesting discussion point. I'm a vegetarian, so I'm in no position to comment. But my meat-eating friends tell me that no matter what gourmet food you get in a kosher place, if it's in Israel, if it's in, you know, we're in the United States, wherever it is, it's not as good as digging your teeth into something else. So can you offer the same standard of gourmet food in Israel as perhaps you're receiving right now in Dubai?
100%. You just need to know who to go to cook it for you. 100%. I'm doing an event on the 2nd of December when I come back, a small corporate event, dinner for the board of directors of Israel's second biggest insurance company. And the chef who's catering it was the chef who founded Palomar in London. So he's an Israeli chef. He was a partner with Asaf Granit for many years. I can say his name. His name is Tomer Amedi. You can Google him. He does the most amazing food, and he does kosher food and works with a mashgiach, if that's what the brief says. And his food is absolutely phenomenal. So you just need to get to the right people. You had disappeared, but now you're back. Welcome back.
So I was talking away and I lost you, and maybe it was actually me who disappeared. So
I think I've had continuous internet. But okay. You disappeared from my screen.
I'm not going to ask you what I missed, but you were talking. I'm assuming you very professionally carried on. There you go. I teach presentation, public speaking, that type of thing. And one of the big focuses that I put into it is what happens when something goes wrong? How do you prepare for something going wrong? What can you do? So can you prepare for every eventuality in your business?
I've got a lovely story, but it's a long one. I think it's very much a question of the suppliers that you work with. So I'm going to say some more stuff that's not going to make me popular. I don't know who else is out there listening.
So
but when an Israeli supplier says to me, I have these little antenna at the top of my head that does this. And I'm thinking this is definitely not going to be beseder in my book. And very often I will say to them, can you send me an email saying how this is going to be beseder? And very often there's no follow-up to that. And so I wouldn't work with somebody that is not giving me the vibe of beseder. Thank you. My name's just popped up there, just in case I forget. So I think working with the right suppliers is a very big way, Mr. Harris, to prepare yourself for disasters. And I'll try and tell you really briefly of the worst massive disaster that ever happened, like a nightmare to any party planner. I was doing a fundraising dinner for Bar-Ilan University for the Department of Archaeology, and they had invited the Canadian Friends of the Archaeology Department from Canada. And there was a dinner at a dig in a place called Horvat Itri, which is in Hebrew in a place called Kibinimat, which means the end of bloody nowhere. And it was you could only access it by jeep. And the idea was that I was going to put up a Bedouin tent and serve them dinner, and they were going to have a walk around this dig. And it was like a doddle. It was going to be really fun and easy. So I don't know if any of you have ever built a Bedouin tent, but as it turns up, it's not like a Lycra tent with 4 pegs. It's got about 500,000 ropes and 700,000 pegs and another huge amount of Bedouin blanket things. Anyway, it takes about 6 hours to put it up. So I had Ahmed, the Bedouin tent builder. We started at 6 o'clock in the morning. I had 2 workers. He put up the tent. It took forever. Then we started setting up tables and chairs, and it was semi-picnic. And the guests were supposed to come at 6. And we were ready at about 4. And at about 4:30, there was suddenly crazy hooting, and a jeep came. And it was the park authorities, and he started screaming at me in Hebrew. What are you doing here? Why are you here? You've broken in. And I'm like, no, I've got the key. I haven't broken in at all. I have permission to be here. Who gave you permission? You're definitely not allowed to be here. This is an archaeological dig. Blah, 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 blah. I call the university, and the woman there says, oh dear, we forgot to get permission from the National Archaeology Park Authority. Don't do anything. I'll call the dean. She calls the dean, she calls me back, and she says, I'm really sorry, you're going to have to put everything down and move. We don't want to cause offense. And the guests were coming at 6. So by now it's 4:30. Took me like 7 hours to put the tent together. So the first thing I did was I called the bus driver and I said, you need to break down. And you need to break down badly. And you need to keep on looking very anxious and call the bus company and shout at them because they're not sending you another bus, and you might need to do that for an hour or so. And then by then, a load of other suppliers had come. And unfortunately for me, it was all men that day. So I had mobile toilets, and I had a generator, and all of them were like 3 or 4 men. And I maybe had about 7 men by then, including Ahmed, the Bedouin tent builder, and 2 guys of my own. And the catering company who hadn't showed up yet were also supposed to arrive, and men. Anyway, I said to everybody, okay, it doesn't matter about anything else. All the toilets and everything else get pulled by jeeps, but the tent, I don't know. So we have to take the tent down. Everybody has to help. I'll tip you. I'll give you extra. We pull the tent down very, very quickly. And we re-erected it, and the guy there from the National Archaeological Parks Authority, whatever he's called, says you can go to a lower level. So we move everything to a lower level. Now we've got dismantled tent, 500,000 pieces of rope, blah, 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 blah. We got the tent up again in an hour. I don't know. We didn't use all the ropes. We didn't use all the pegs. It's sort of a bit wobbly, but it was standing. And then I get a call from the caterer saying, we have a flat tire and we're going to be late. So the plan for that evening was that the guests would come, we would serve them cold drinks, which I obviously didn't have because they were coming from the caterer. And then they would go and explore the dig, and then we would serve them dinner. So I got in my car. I had a Jeep in those days. I got in my car. I rushed out to the local petrol station. I said, just give me everything that you've got that's cold and put it in the back of the car for me, which they did. And then I drove off. So I had all these cold drinks, and I said, I'll just serve them the cold drinks. They'll come, it will be fine. The caterer will set up while they're doing the walk arounds. Everything will be cool. And I'm quite relaxed. So you couldn't see it on my face. I'm driving along in the Jeep with my boot full of cold drinks. I'm thinking there's a real strong breeze in the car, but all my windows are closed. What's going on? And I look in the mirror, and the guys from the restaurant didn't close the back door of my Jeep. And most of the bottles and cans fell in the road, and I had to stop the car, scramble out, pick up everything. Some of it broke, but not all of it. Shoved everything back in the car, drove back along this bumpy road, got there, had no tables, no chairs, no nothing, because the catering wasn't there, but I did have cold drinks. Called the bus driver, said, okay, you can come. How far away are you? He said 15 minutes. I said, perfect, come. He came, we served them cold drinks. We didn't have glasses, straws, serviettes or anything, but they got their cold drinks. They went off and did their stuff in the dig. By that time, I had managed to direct the catering company. It was on time. We were maybe 25 minutes late. I don't know how.
When you have an experience like that, and then we have to move on to the Dubai stuff, does it make you want to just pack it all in? You like the challenge?
Makes me want to do another one and plan it better. Makes me want to do another one and get in writing. This is your permit. My hand has gone away. This is my permit, and you're allowed to do an event. You learn every time.
Right. The idea of calling the bus driver and telling them to fake it is sounds brilliantly Israeli or very Middle Eastern, but also to have the ability to think outside the box like that, I'm sure is part of what has made you so successful, which brings us on to what you're hoping is going to be your new success, which is the Emirates Experts. What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to use my experience and my abilities that I know I have and that I'm comfortable with, and to take them to a new place. Because hospitality is hospitality. Look, I don't know how to open a hotel and I don't know how to open a restaurant, but I know how to listen to a brief, to enrich it with my own ideas, and I know how to turn it into a successful event. Some of the events that I've done over the years are incentives in Israel and outside. I've been working for several years with an Israeli party planner who doesn't speak good English, or who speaks okay English, but not great English. And we've done some very, very exciting events together. I went with her to Thailand 2 years ago, and we did an incentive for 130 Israelis in Thailand, in Phuket, which was an amazing, amazing event. We've done events for Nike. I've done stuff for her in London, in Croatia. So we've been working together on and off for years. She's an independent company from me, but we like to work together. We're good together. And I called her and said, let's do something in the Emirates. I had been approached on LinkedIn by 3 or 4 companies when we were shut down. And because I've historically been doing private events, mostly people from UK, my connections in the Israeli corporate world are not nearly as good as hers. And I said, let's do something. She said, what do you want to do? And I said, let's do incentives, incentiving. Let's take this and do it in Dubai. She goes, I don't know anything about it. I said, I know, nor do I. I'll start reading. So I had these 3 contacts. Very, very nice people.
How long ago are you talking about?
At the end of the first lockdown.
So May.
Pesach, after Pesach?
Yeah, the end of April.
Just after Pesach.
Okay.
I had 3 phone calls that came to me through LinkedIn. One of them is Alberto, who's downstairs, who's hosting this trip, who specializes in local incentives in Dubai. He's Italian-born Swiss, been living in Dubai for 15 years. The second person who contacted me was a guy called Mike, who's a Druze from Lebanon, who hosted me last night for dinner. What an amazing meal. Who wants to bring Israeli musicians to Dubai to perform in nightclubs. Great, I know how to do that. And the third person, I'm actually not going to have time to meet, but I've replaced her with a different idea that's sort of cooking now. So the third person who I was going to meet was somebody who wanted to bring government officials to Israel to learn about cyber, but she's a bit, not flaky, but doesn't seem to have it quite together. And in the interim, I've made some contacts here, people who specialize in Emirati travel outside of the Emirates, and I'm connecting with them hopefully to bring Emiratis on pilgrimages to the holy Muslim sites. So that would be the back of Emirates Experts. That will be the Israel Experts.
One of the things that I've said to a lot of Israeli business people and folks that I know in the world of commerce and so on, who are getting so excited about the whole Dubai thing. And of course, people forget there are 7 Emirates, and we're also, at peace now with Bahrain, and presumably Saudi Arabia is going to open up soon.
Oman.
And absolutely. The only one of the Gulf states seems to be Qatar, and I'm sure they'll jump on board at some point as well. Qatar had good relations with Israel before all the others. And I talked to these folks, and the way they're presenting it, it sounds like they think that Dubai or the United Arab Emirates is some sort of backwoods place that has got no real investment, that is, just a kind of fake Las Vegas in the sand. And I say to them, listen, folks, other countries have been doing business with the UAE for the last 20, 30 years. They're already well entrenched. They've already pillaged, as Westerners do whenever we go into somewhere that we perceive to be less advanced than us. That's all done. So what are you hoping to achieve? Now, that's not my question for you, but rather that was just me editorializing. My comment to you is that you've actually done something very clever, which is rather than saying, let's see what we can take from the Emiratis, because everybody's already done that and they've already got those relationships built up, but rather you're saying, what can we bring in from the Israelis who are so excited about this newfound relationship?
I mean, it's just incredible how fast this has all happened. I flew in via Athens because there were no direct flights. There is now, from Sunday, we have El Al, the Emirates, Etihad or Ahiyad that flies to Dubai, Fly Dubai, Yisrael, El Al, and Al-Kia. There will be 300 flights a week or a month.
Must be
a month. I tried to work it out.
It's about 20. I thought it was about 28. I thought it was about 28 a week. Maybe it's more. Maybe they've gone up.
It's gone up. Israel was always in on the game. Al-Kia wasn't. Now Al-Kia have joined, and Wizz.
Also, Wizz is doing it. Okay.
Because Wizz has a hub here in Dubai.
Is this sustainable in your opinion? This relationship between on the tourism and that sort of level that you're talking about?
I think it's kind of interesting. I think we as Israelis, or we as anybody outside of Dubai, have this preconceived idea about what Dubai is about, and I can blow away some of those myths if you have questions. I think that there is going to be a massive herd of Israelis flying in, and there'll be the flying carpet, Eshet, Ophir, that will do things very, very cheaply and will attract a certain kind of people with that kind of budget, and that's fine. I'm not judging anything. The Emirates, it's expensive. This is not a cheap destination. It's not India. It's not Thailand. Hotels are not cheap. Food, restaurants are not cheap. It's very, very high end. It's amazing and an amazing destination. You can get cheap. I mean, there's an old Hilton and an old Sheraton that were built in 1980 that are still standing. They're not skyscrapers. They look like old hotels from Eilat. And they call themselves 4 stars. I don't know what the service is like. I don't know. I haven't gone into them. So there will be cheaper alternatives. And, if I do a meal in the desert here, it will be very top end because that's what I do. But you can always get a cheaper alternative for everything. But I think there's going to be a mad rush of Israelis who've been locked down in quarantine with or without corona several times. I know some Israelis who've been locked down and put into quarantine 4 or 5 times. They are so hot to leave, they'll go anywhere. And they'll come, and they sadly may give us a bad name, which I'm not looking forward to.
Which could impact on your own business as well.
Hopefully it doesn't. It's not going to be full of kids because it's just really not that cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a couple's destination by and
large.
Yeah.
It's an amazing place. It's fascinating. I can
So,
talk about it now for days.
right.
I don't know what, you know.
On something, I want to pick up on something that you just said before we begin to conclude, and we'll go on to the spinning. So my question to you was, is this sustainable? Which you didn't answer.
So is it sustainable?
But the point is, you said lots of Israelis are going to start coming now, and all of the tourism groups, our theatres, and all these folks are all going to jump on the bandwagon. But isn't it a bit like, and we've had these conversations on the Facebook group, a new restaurant opens in town and everybody rushes to that restaurant, and the old restaurants go out of business until the new restaurant somewhere else opens up. And, you know, after the thrill of Dubai has gone, and then let's say Saudi Arabia opens up, which is of course much less likely. All right, let's say Oman, and suddenly Oman becomes sexy and attractive to Israelis. Is that going to screw everything up in terms of the travel and business between Israel and
I think when the dust settles, people will still come here. It's a short flight, different culture, very interesting for specific group interests. So if you have attitude and you like altitude, there's all sorts of action happening high in the skies, not only skyscrapers. I went up in a helicopter today. It was amazing. The day after tomorrow, apparently I'm jumping off a building and doing a zip line at 80 kilometers an hour.
When we were planning for this, you said you weren't going to do
it. So I've been working on myself to do it, and I'm planning to do it. And I'm planning not to eat before so that I don't throw up, choke on myself, pass out, die of fear, because it's not dangerous. They're safe, but they just terrify me.
You're going to post the video on the group.
Today I met the most, yes, I will post it. Today I met the most amazing supplier who has 62 racing cars, Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and does 5-hour self-drive trips. I have never seen anything like it. Guess how fast they go?
Yeah, kilometers or miles?
Kilometers. I don't speak miles anymore.
250?
Almost. 350 kilometers an hour.
And you actually go at that speed?
And that's what they do. That's what they do. Not the whole trip.
Right.
But there are parts of the road where they do 350 kilometers an hour.
It's interesting in Dubai, of course, a lot of well, not a lot, some of the police officers drive Lamborghinis, but they don't go quite that fast. These sound very seriously souped up. We're running out of time. You've had the longest time of any of these sessions so far, but you're presenting a whole new world for many of us. Talk to me about what you're going to be doing over the weekend, and is this a first between Israel and the United Arab Emirates?
So interesting, it's happening at the right time, because at the moment the Emirates are doing something called Project 3030, which is 30 minutes of exercise every day for 30 days to encourage the citizens to get fitter. I'm not sure if this is after lockdown. They were locked down as well for a while. So it's fallen at the right time. But I'm a bit of a spinning fanatic and a spinning instructor. And I thought it might be fun to spin here. And anyway, when I travel, I never go anywhere without my spinning shoes. They're in my suitcase. And then when I got here, I thought it might actually be...
Let me stop you. I'm sorry. I'm sure there are people who are watching this who don't know what spinning is.
A spinning is a form of exercise where you sit in a dark room on a bicycle that goes nowhere with an instructor yelling at you, yalla, 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 faster, faster, faster. And you spin for as fast as you can and as hard as you can to very loud, sometimes Mizrahi music.
Okay, so carry on.
So I teach that. So I found a spinning room that will host me. And they have 15 bicycles, I should say, in brackets at Home's Place, which is my home base, actually has 85 bicycles. So this is a small spinning room, but socially spaced and all the rest of it. So on Shabbat afternoon, forgive me, those of you who keep Shabbat, I'm teaching a class. I'm teaching a spinning class where there will be 15 local people on bicycles, amongst them my new Australian friend from the lift, the Lebanese guy from yesterday, the manager of a hotel who's Egyptian, who I met this afternoon, all sorts of people. We didn't say this, but in Dubai, about 10% of the citizens of Dubai are Emiratis. and you don't really meet them. And everybody else is everybody else. There are a lot of Arab speakers, but there's just a lot of everybody. It'll be broadcast on Zoom. There'll be about 60 people from Israel, perhaps more, spinning with me. 2 in Myanmar, 12 from Sight Club in Hampstead Garden Suburb, the Australian guy from The Lift. It's going to be fun. I'm doing a 60-minute spinning class, half the music, Israeli, hardcore, I don't know, static and all sorts of weird music that I wouldn't, or Mel Adam and all sorts of stuff, and half Emirati music.
Now, you are an accomplished business person, businesswoman.
Can't hear you. Disappeared.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. You just wanted me to say it twice, didn't you?
Yes. No, I didn't hear what you said the first time, but maybe.
That's very funny. Because what I said was you're an accomplished businesswoman, and then you said I can't hear you. Say it again. Say it again. So, you're an accomplished businesswoman, and you're not doing these things just for the love. You are clearly trying to make a business out of this. You're very clear. You talk a very good business game. You've given us a good idea of your business acumen. But take off your business hat for a minute and sort of put on your hat as a Jew, as an Israeli in this new world. And I don't mean just because you're visiting Dubai, which obviously is very exciting, but how are you feeling about what this could potentially mean for our futures? I mean, for 75 years, we've been, you know, are we here to stay? Are we not here to stay? There are real existential threats. And suddenly, whatever your politics are, the world has kind of turned on its head over the last few weeks.
So, well, you've been to Dubai several times on your British passport, and I could have come here on my British passport, although I've never been here. I'm not the kind of person that feels threatened in a place that is, you know, where there are Muslims or any other religion, friends, not friends. I have not been so excited about doing anything or traveling anywhere for years as much as I was before I came here. And I'm not sure, I've 25 people sent me yesterday the same clip of this guy saying there's a fruit stand behind me. It makes me cry. And I don't even think that this peace treaty or normalization, whatever they're calling it, was a huge drama, because low-key, we've had Israel and all the fruit and vegetables been coming to Dubai from Israel for years, only it was never made public. But it's amazing. And I met a very lovely Syrian guy while I was out waiting for the people that I'm traveling with. And I speak very basic Arabic. So it was like, min wain inte? And he said, Anna min Damasek. And min wain inte? And so we had this very, you know, I have 7 words in Arabic. And I told him, Anna min Israel. And he like hugged me. And he's Syrian. And with his mask and my mask and all the rest of it. And he has a tattoo here, which I took a photograph of, which I will put on Facebook later tonight, which says Damasek with love in Arabic. So, you know, he's a Syrian. And he was so excited to meet an Israeli, and I felt the same way. I was so excited to meet a Syrian. And I think that there could be some very interesting meetings on a completely non-political level with people in the street, because if Emirates is full of anything, it's full of Arabs from the Gulf and from our part of the Middle East. And we just all want peace, don't we? That's not political. That's what we want.
From your lips to Allah's ears.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Before you go, chance to plug yourself. If people want to find you, do you want to give one email address or a website, or you want to plug both?
If you're interested in weddings, I'm liveproductions.co.il. And if you're interested in anything to do with the Emirates, I'm modestly called Emirates-Experts.com. Soon to be expert. So far only in Dubai. When I come back next time, I'll do the rest.
Abu Dhabi is a wonderful place, and the others are just fascinating and
we're doing some deserts.
So beyond what we know. Karen Safril, honorary member of Manx in Israel. We let you in as a Londoner, and thank you for sharing your experiences in Dubai and, of course, in your previous ventures. And you promise that your zip lining video is going to be posted on our website by the weekend.
I will share it with you. Thank you so much for hosting me, sending you lots of hugs from the most crazy place in the world. It's crazy here.
Just before we go, I should tell you that Karen tried to show, turned her laptop round so we'd see outside, but just with all of the reflections and everything, it wasn't possible to do. But have a look on our website. I'm sure she'll also post a few photos for us as well after this. Karen, again, thank you. Good night. Take care. Sleep well.
Good night. Thanks so much.